Okay, hi everybody. We're going to get into MBOs now, and this is a very good way to manage your job. If you are working for a good company, they're going to have some form of this installed and really forming the structure and the backbone of how the company works. Some people call them KPIs, key performance indicators, but it's all the same thing, which is basically you sit down with your boss and you develop a list of goals. Here's what you are going to accomplish by such and such a date, and as much as possible, these are quantifiable goals. You're going to increase enrollment by 5% by June 1st, for instance, or you're going to write 3 reports on such and such by the end of the summer. So numbers are in there, so you have a clear way of seeing whether you've accomplished your objectives or not. What you don't want are just general objectives like I'm going to get a job in marketing. You want to say I'm going to get this type of a job at this type of a company by such and such a date. And here are my first steps to getting that job. I'm going to join LinkedIn. I'm going to do research in the library on companies. I'm going to try to reach out to people who work at those companies by such and such a date, by such and such a date. So things are not general and sort of hazy, but they're specific goals and even specific action steps. When you're a boss yourself, you're going to want to do this with your team. And guess what? Your role as the boss is to help your people who work for you accomplish their objectives. And objectives can be changed. You can sit down and figure, you know what, we were a little off on this. Let's do it this way. So MBOs involve setting the goals, mutually agreeable goals with your boss, and then sitting down on a regular basis to review how you're doing against those goals. So, for instance, advertising is also based on goals. Goals of moving people along the purchase funnel, goals of communicating, reaching certain people with a certain type of a message, etc., etc. And by the way, as you see here in this last sentence, smart companies had their goal setting coming right from the top. In other words, the company has an overall goal of increasing sales by so much, of helping the community by so much, of retaining workers, a variety of goals in different areas that the CEO is responsible for ultimately. And then those goals work their way down throughout the company so that everyone in the company is doing his or her part to accomplish the overall company goals. And that's how a company is run by MBOs. So, for instance, you might ask, what are your objectives for this class? So my job is to get each of you not only to pass this semester, but to excel. I have a second goal of wanting you to learn useful things, some of which may not be strictly in the course material. For instance, we're going to spend a fair amount of time working on presentation skills. That's another set of skills that will serve you well in your job and in your career. So the overall goal I have is to try to help you, each one of you, get ready for your career so that you succeed in being productive, happy, fulfilled, as well as ethical employees and persons. That's my goal. So maybe I'll get some feedback from you a few times over the course of the semester in terms of how I'm doing. And there you go. So you are each going to write for me for the next class the following. How does this class, help you achieve your goals? Starting with, what are your goals for getting your degree from FIT? Why are you here? How is FIT going to help you? What are your goals for getting your degree from FIT? And then how does the class help you? What are your goals for this class? You have a certain grade you're trying to accomplish. Are there certain things you're trying to learn? Are you working on your presenting skills? Are you working at being a better team player? What are your goals for the class? So put that in writing. And I want you to email it to me before our next class, or in other words, within a week. of this class kicking off. And you're not actually going to have to review it with the class, although I would like you to review it with your teammates, but that's optional. I can't demand that of you. But here's what will happen. I will give feedback to each one of you separately. You'll email the goals to me. I will email you back feedback within a day or two of receiving them. And then I want you to take those goals out and look at them from time to time. It's been proven that people who write down their goals for business and for life and look at those goals frequently are 54% more likely to accomplish the goals. So here's another way, another writing out of my goals, helping you achieve your goals. It's one of my jobs. I want every student to get a passing grade. Each student learns the basic principles of effective marketing, especially direct marketing. Each student knows whether any ad she sees will be effective or not. Each student learns more about how to act as an employee of a company. Each student becomes a better presenter, and I hope we all have fun. And so how do I know if I'm successful in each goal? What can I measure is something I'll ask you guys to think about a little bit, and I will too. Okay, we're going to move on now. We've talked about MBOs. I've asked you each to write up your own. And by the way, if you want to add personal goals, whatever they may be, I want to be a better son or daughter, I want to be a better brother, I want to be a better friend, I want to help such and such a charity, whatever they may be. Feel free to include them as well. That's just fine. Okay, moving right along. Now, this copy strategy is something I learned when I was an account executive on Procter & Gamble business. Procter & Gamble is generally regarded as the smartest marketing company in the world. They make, and if you're not familiar with them, a lot of very successful products, usually the leaders in their category. P&G products like Tide detergent, Crest toothpaste, Scope mouthwash, Pampers diapers, Head and Shoulders shampoo, Dawn dishwashing liquid. They now own Gillette. They're very smart marketers, and they're smart because everything they do is structured and scientific. They do a lot of testing, a lot of research. They don't put their money behind something unless it's been test marketed and they've learned from it. And because of this methodical, basically scientific, rational approach, that's the secret of their success. And this is the basic Procter & Gamble copy strategy that I learned as an assistant account executive, and it still works today. And so, for instance, I'm just going to give a quick example. When I was assistant account executive on Duncan Hines Cake Mix, which now was P&G sold some time ago because they knew there wasn't going to be much growth in people baking cakes. One of the jobs of the assistant account executive was to constantly monitor cake mix advertising. And there was Betty Crocker in those days. There was Pillsbury coming out with their own things. And we had a service that we subscribed to at my agency, which is now Saatchi & Saatchi, some of you may have heard of. And the service would send us a tape and a storyboard whenever it picked up a competitive ad. And then my job was basically to figure out the copy strategy behind the ad. Who is it targeting? What is the benefit? What is the promise of the product? How are they supporting that the product will indeed deliver the product or the benefit? What is the brand character or personality of the brand? I had to sort of interpret that by looking at the commercial and also looking at whatever media it was running in. That helps to us to decide who they're targeting as well. So it's always helpful to know that. And then after I did that, I would say whether I thought it would be effective or not. In other words, is the ad going to grab attention? Is it persuasive? I do some judgment on that. So that's what you guys are going to be doing in this class, because each team's going to bring in a different direct ad or send me, sorry, getting used to this digital world. Each team's going to provide to the class in the discussion forum an ad every week. And each every team, including the one who submits, are going to try to figure out the Tabasco for it, the target, benefit, support, brand character, and the offer. So that's what you'll be doing. And by practicing this, you'll now, rather than just looking at an ad and saying, oh, I like that ad or I don't like this ad, you're going to say, well, let's analyze what it's trying to do first. Let's see what the strategy is and how smart the strategy is. And then let's decide whether we like it or not. So you're going to have a more sophisticated understanding of each ad and what it's trying to do. And again, Tabasco is the way I've come up with to help you remember. Target, benefit, support, brand character. And then, of course, all direct advertising has a call to action or an offer. So when you look at an ad like this that appeared in, I think it was People magazine some time ago, who is it targeting? And I want you to think to yourselves, it's in People magazine, it's in a recipe food section of People magazine. What is most of the editorial in People magazine about, et cetera, et cetera? You're going to come up with the idea that this ad targets cooks, yes, targets women. And the benefit is you won't, if you use Pam in the dish before you cook something, and you don't use the bargain brand, you use good old Pam, it's much easier to clean, and that gives you time. So the benefit is less cleaning time, easier to clean. What is the support? How do they prove that Pam is going to give you more free time, or that Pam is better than the bargain brand? How do they prove it? Well, the visual, right in the middle of the ad, proves it, right? Because they're saying, one side is this, the other side is that, and here's what it looks like. That's visual proof, which is always very persuasive. What's the brand character Pam that comes from this? Is it sexy? Is it luxurious? Is it got a great sense of humor? What kind of adjectives would you use to describe the brand Pam based on what you see in this ad? You see the packaging, you see the product, it's yellow and red. Would you use words like effective, simple, down to earth, tough? And hopefully the answer to that is yes. And so that's brand character. With brand character, you want to use adjectives to describe what this brand is like. It's also sometimes useful to think about celebrities. If you were going to hire a celebrity to be a spokesperson for Pam, who would he or she be? What would he or she be dressed like? Who could you imagine? And why do you think they fit? Okay, and then finally, offer. Don't see much of an offer in this. This looks really more like just a branding ad for Pam. Okay, here's another one. This one came, I think, from Outside Magazine. Okay, and this is Geico. And what was the target? And here it's Outside Magazine, so it's outdoorsy, active people, right? I would say men and women, maybe a little skew towards men, but not necessarily. My MindSpring account settings are out of date, everyone. Uh-oh. It's my personal email. So what is the message here? That's the target is active people, outdoorsy people, right? Because you see motorcycles, RVs, boats. What is, and they're subscribing to Outdoor Magazine. What is the benefit? Well, the benefit in this case would seem to be savings. It would also seem to be that you can basically insure all kinds of vehicles with Geico. So there's sort of an ease of insuring things that may be implied here too by the visual and by the line, no matter your ride. What's the support of savings? Not a lot of support. I don't see a lot of dollar signs. I don't see an amount saved or anything else. I just see the word savings. So not sure there's a lot of support in this ad necessarily. What is the brand character of Geico? Okay, and we've got a Gecko, who's Geico, which is a brilliant case of making a sort of funny name